Hey guys, what is going on? It is me, BikiriBox12 here, and welcome back to another Realm of the Mad God ranking video. I've taken a look at both weapons and abilities thus far, and now it's time to move across the HUD menu and take a look at some armors. Both untiered and set-tiered items this time. Since there aren't really enough of either category to fill for one video, I figured I would combine them for this. As always, no limited time offers, no reskins, none of that cheater armor stuff. And unlike weapons and abilities, armors are a little bit easier to understand. You don't really have to use them to know what they do. It says it right there. Not to say that not having the items hasn't stopped me before from making these videos, but I'm just saying, armors and rings are definitely a lot more cosmetic than weapons and abilities. So let's get started. Number 29. Snakeskin Armor. Dropping from the snake pit, this was something that I did use from time to time in my earlier days. While it doesn't give you as much defense or dexterity as the Wine Cellar top, it does give you a +3 speed bonus that even the Hydra can't give. So while Snakeskin Armor can have its place early game, once you get up into the mid to high tiers, even stuff that you can get in Godlands, it does become outclassed. Number 28. Mantle of Skuld. A lot of these ST armors really like to give you 12 defense. Something with that number is they really like that one. Rather than getting any dexterity bonus of any kind, you get 25 health and 10 mana. Now, I usually prefer, especially with pets being a thing, to sacrifice my defense if it means I'm getting a lot of health. But to get rid of 5 whole defense for merely 25 health simply is not worth it. Number 27. Woodland Robe. Looks pretty cool, gotta say, but the stats are strange. A very minimal 15 MP, 5 defense, 3 speed, and 3 dexterity. Very odd combinations, a little bit of movement speed, a little bit of DPS. At the very least, it does have variety over the other two, but there's not much going on here. Number 26. Robe of Tlatoani. While one could argue that the Woodland Robe is superior, since this robe doesn't give you any defense at all, I like this one a little bit more for having a focus on mana. You're getting 45 mana and 8 wisdom, which in an era where Wismon is a thing, is actually pretty impressive. But aside from that, yeah, it is pretty much useless. Number 25, the Robe of Twilight. Not the item that you want to get from the Archmage. That's what we call this. It takes elements from the previous robes and sort of combines them together. You're getting the 3 speed and dexterity, but more defense at 12, the magic number again, 5 mana and 10 health. I honestly don't know why they even bothered. Like, I get that wearing the whole set will boost these stats, that's why they're even there, but it always makes me laugh when I see such a small amount of such big stats on items. I don't know, it just cracks me up. So yeah, no, on its own, it's not very good. Number 24. Apiary Armor. Yet another 12 defense here, but this time around we're also getting 5 speed, which is more than Coral Silk and almost as much as Leaf Hide. In addition, we're getting 5 dexterity, the same as a Hydra. It's too bad we also lose 5 attack here, basically negating the 5 dexterity. But A for effort this time around, at least they tried. Number 23. Chasuble of Holy Light. I've always really liked the Manor UT set. Puri is a great tome, arguably the best. St. Abraham's Wand has its uses, and I'll say even the Chasuble isn't a half-bad robe. Its main trade-off is that you're getting less defense, a teeny bit less mana, and no attack in exchange for 4 vitality. And I'm sure you can see the problems with that. When you wear the whole set, you can accumulate 20 vitality in total, putting the priest at 60, which is pretty good even when taking pets into consideration. I still think that's pretty neat, but to give up attack, mana, and some defense for it, that's not worth it to me. Only if I have the whole set, kind of like an ST, would I wear this. Number 22, Garment of the Beast. One of the newer additions here. We have what is essentially a weaker version of the Toga Picta, an item that I will get to in a little bit. 10 defense, 50 mana, and 4 wisdom is all a little bit lower than the Wine Cellar top, but all of that is done in exchange for a whopping 8 attack, which would make this the Golem Garments of robes. Unfortunately, kind of like Apiary Armor, we're also losing 5 dexterity here, which negates not all of, but a good deal of that 8 attack. The damage does get a little bit better than G-Sork at higher defenses, so that is what keeps this item at its place, but other than that, there's not a whole lot going on here. Number 21. Robe of the Mad Scientist. Very funny thing about this item, its stats are basically identical to a Robe of the Grand Sorcerer. The only difference here is that you're losing 1 wisdom for 2 vitality. Very minimal changes that hardly affect your gameplay. When you're wearing the whole set, you can increase the Sorcerer's base 75 vitality even higher, which I think is pretty cool. But overall, despite being comparable to one of the best robes, as a UT, this thing really lacks personality. There's nothing about it that really stands out. This is one of those rare cases where it's not bad, it's actually pretty good, but as an untiered item, I don't find it to be remarkable in really any sense to make it worth my time, unless I somehow run out of G-Sorks, which will never happen in this economy. Number 20. Zaarvox's Heart. Finally, we get to talk about a heavy armor. A common thing that a lot of these UT and ST heavy armors do is sacrificing their high defense for some other stat, to let the melees indulge in something other than being a tank. In this case, we get 6 speed, which is practically tailor-made for the warrior. Because of the speedy ability, that 6 instantly becomes a +9, adding it to your total, making you an even better rusher. But you can also combine it with other items for some of the other heavy armor classes. I could see this combining well with the likes of Nile, putting the knight at a good 60 speed, or combining with the paladin's Oreo. If you want to play on a melee but move around a little bit quicker, there is a possibility here for that. For the more reckless players who feel like they can dodge well and don't need that much defense, they're in a position to trade some of that away for something more interesting. Number 19. Kamishimo, the newest addition to my list, being a part of the new Samurai ST set. This armor only gives you 14 defense in exchange for 60 health and 4 dexterity, 2 stats that don't necessarily go together, and losing the 10 defense from the Acropolis armor is a pretty big hit. I could honestly see this being used on knights, who want to go for a big health bonus but don't have a breastplate. It's very far from the best thing, I understand that, but I do think that it tries to balance itself out relatively well. Sorta. Number 18. Beehemoth Armor. A very similar position to Zaarvox's Heart, in fact the stats are almost identical. We have here a leather armor that gives you the same amount of defense as Hydra, but it's trading out its 5 dexterity for speed. This is what the Apiary and Snakeskin Armor wanted to be. It's giving you substantial defense to maintain its rank as an armor, but trades off its other stats to support a different area. In this case, speed, which is not a half bad thing for the leather armor classes, because 3 of those classes happen to use daggers, and they all have 75 speed at max. And if you want your ninja to go even faster, slap this baby on. I could see this being a pretty decent swap out for eventing or rushing. Number 17. Harlequin Armor. Really cool looking sprite, just want to get that across right off the bat. We're getting 14 defense, 80 mana, 5 wisdom, 3 speed. Now these stats complement a couple of classes pretty well. Firstly, it's tailor-made for the assassin. If you're gonna see one class wearing this, it's him. He desperately needs the mana, good mana regen, the 3 less defense isn't a big deal, and the 3 speed is a nice complement to the already fast dagger classes. It can also be good on a rogue who doesn't have insane mana regen from their pet. I can see this being used on ninjas who want to throw an additional star, tricksters who want more teleports, archers who want more quiver shots, although there are a couple of other armors I would rather put on the archer and huntress. But this is a pretty good armor, and I think dropping from the Puppet Master's Theater is a very nice middle ground. Number 16, Candy-Coated Armor. Despite having come out during the Kabam era, this is a very classic item for me. It was released at a time whenever I was at my peak enjoyment of Realm, where I was playing it the most and was finally getting my bearings, and I remember whenever I first got one of these, it's the only one I've ever had, believe it or not, still in my vault in fact, I didn't have very many special white bags at the time. I had gotten Doombow, EP, Planewalker, Demon Blade, but this was one of the few oddball UTs. This was also at a time whenever I was really getting into the Paladin, the very same Paladin that I made the Paladin guide with, and that died in the Shatters. This was, of course, at a time when the Candy-Coated was seen as the Paladin's armor. Since then, my opinions have changed. I think Acropolis is more suited for it. I don't really need the extra defense, especially after the Paladin buff. Samurai, I can see it being used on because he doesn't have too much defense yet, although he already has really low dexterity, so it's really up to the player if they want to sacrifice more of it. I think the Warrior is still the best pick though. If you don't have a jug, you get some more defense that brings you closer to knight status, and your berserk ability helps you maintain high DPS despite the dex reduction. I haven't used it in a very long time, but it's a trophy item for sure. Plus the idea of having a suit of armor made entirely out of hard candy is pretty novel. Number 15. Toga Picta. Ironically, while I do think this armor is better than the Garments of the Beast, we actually get less mana in total, which is funny. But we have 13 defense, 4 vitality, the same 8 attack, but we're only losing 3 dexterity, which not only gives you superior DPS to the garments, but also to the Grand Sorcerer Robe. And that's what puts it above the rest, an item that can increase the DPS of the robe classes, regardless of which one you're playing on. It's just a shame you don't get any wisdom. Number 14, Rags of the Host. Seems like taking away defense for attack is a common theme with these leather armors lately. 15 defense, which actually isn't that far from Hydra, but instead of 5 dexterity, we get 6 attack. What's the drawback? -2 vit. That's actually pretty good. I don't have anything negative to say. I mean, there are a couple of other armors that do it better, but on its own, It's pretty good. I gotta get me one of those. Number 13, Leaf Dragonhide Armor. Very peculiar stats across the board. A lower 13 defense, 15 health unlike the others, 6 speed, the highest we've seen, 3 wisdom, and 3 vitality. It seems that in exchange for DPS from any sort of dexterity bonus, we're given an ironically more versatile and survivable character, despite the reduction in defense. I think that the health bonus, especially if you have a good healing pet, is far more beneficial than a measly 4 defense. And the 6 speed allows you to evade attacks more so, which, as we've established, is good for the leather armor classes. I can even see it being used on an archer. Combine this with a 5 speed from, say, a leaf bow, maybe 6 speed from a gemstone or a lodestone. Imagine moving that fast on an archer. That's gotta feel great. It's also fun on Trickster though, because you can combine it with a Prism of Dancing Swords and a Deca Ring, getting you to 1000 health. This is an interesting armor that I think has more potential than we realize. Number 12, Coral Silk Armor. First of all, this item is beautiful. Always liked it. Great pink contrast to the blue of the ocean trench. I think I said that with Coral Bow, but it's still true. 16 defense and 4 dexterity, 1 each less than Hydra, but a +3 speed bonus. It's weird because it sort of falls into the category of the Mad Scientist robe, where it's very similar to its Wine Cellar top counterpart, only changing up its stats slightly. 3 speed is not a lot on its own. Some classes like the Ninja can make do with it and make it more speed, and the Dagger classes can put on speed rings to complement it, but it's not amazing, and that's the funny thing because I still really like it and I like having them. It's probably just because they look really good. Number 11, Fairy Plate. Here's an item I did not appreciate until recently. It puts you at 20 defense, so it's not a big loss like some of the other ones, such as Zaarvox's Heart, but it's still getting rid of some of it in exchange for 40 health and 40 mana. I can't really see myself using this on a warrior, maybe a paladin if my pet wasn't healing me, but the knight and samurai especially I think will benefit from this armor the most. You're nearly halfway there to another stun, you've got more health, you already have so much defense, why not sacrifice it for some more HP? The samurai can throw out another walkie. In the end, what makes this armor special is that you're also getting mana, because health and defense are very similar in that they prevent you from dying. It's really the mana that sells this armor and that makes it a better item than the Kamishimo. Number 10, Spectral Cloth Armor. A reduced 14 defense, but 3 attack, dexterity, and speed. Very small but balanced stats across the board. The attack and dexterity are good complements to each other to give you more DPS, and the speed, as we said, is effective on a number of the leather armor classes. But the attack and dex specifically is a great combo to throw on the archer, and seeing as how he's in my top 3 favorite classes, that's all the reason I need. Number 9, Golem Garments. The only thing better than 3 attack and dex is 8 attack with no repercussions. You're getting the same amount of defense as a Spectral, but way more attack, and a nice 7 vitality bonus, which is neat. Number 8, Fire Dragon Battle Armor. Yet another item I didn't really gain appreciation for till recently. It gives away a hefty amount of its defense for 4 attack, 3 speed, and 3 vitality. I used to think that this item was trying to be a jack-of-all-trades of sorts. It has all these different stats, but they don't really combo well with anything. Now, for the warrior specifically, I think that the 4 attack alone is worth it. It can combine with a number of rings, specifically a Ring of the Pyramid in my case. The 3 speed goes well with Jug, and the 3 vit is a nice cherry on top for the 75 vitality that the warrior already has. I will admit that it is very situational though, but all things considered, it has its moments, and it looks pretty cool. Number 7, Water Dragon Silk Robe. I know I said the fire armor looked really cool, but I'm a blue man, what can I say? This robe does something very dastardly and gets rid of all of your mana, 1 of your defense, and some of your wisdom, in exchange for 6 speed and attack, making your wizard faster and more powerful. I myself have personally combined this item with a Ring of the Nile, granting me a +10 total speed bonus, putting me at 60, and the 6 attack putting me at 81, complementing the 79 dexterity very well. Number 6, Resurrected Warrior's Armor. 17 defense, once again we're getting rid of 7, but in return, 150 mana and 5 wisdom. Think about that for a second. There's not even a robe in the game that gives you that much mana, and those are for classes that need to use mana. So the fact that we're putting an armor on classes who aren't meant to use their abilities that much, with this much mana, opens up a lot of possibilities. Not so much for Pally and Warrior, unless you really don't have good mana control, but the Samurai and Knight, you just gained 1 or 2 extra abilities to spam. Number 5, Soulless Robe. Gotta give credit where it's due, this item knows exactly what it wants to be. It gets rid of all those fancy stats, no attack, no mana, no wisdom. Instead, it focuses all of its power into health and defense, 60 and 15, effectively making this in some ways the best robe in the game. I specifically like putting it on the Necromancer to reach a higher maximum HP cap, but it can really be used on any of them. It just, you know, has less mana to pull from. Number 4, Shendyt of Geb. One of the most confusing sprites, I will say, for me to look at. It probably looks fine to you, but I don't know what I'm looking at. Genuinely looks like something you can smoke out of to me. Right off the bat, we get 25 health and mana, which, like with the Mantle of Skuld, I would normally laugh at for being such a minimal amount. However, this item completely makes up for it. 15 defense, the same as a Soulless, plus 7 vitality and wisdom. All right, 7 vitality, okay, you can shrug it off, whatever. It's still a lot, but sure. 7 wisdom, however, is very effective. Both priest and sorcerer, and even necro, benefit from that greatly. But specifically sorcerer is my favorite to put this on. Number 3, Armor of Nil. I said it before and I'll say it again. I'm putting this thing on my ninja as soon as I get it. 21 defense, 4 -2 speed. I can deal with that. Number 2, Breastplate of New Life. Who doesn't like more health? This is definitely an extreme case for sure, sacrificing a very large amount of defense for a very large amount of health. Sprite's good, very holy aura, an extreme effect but not broken, just a very good armor with a solid objective, and I want one. Number 1, Ritual Robe. I anxiously await the day when I get this item and can build the ultimate sorcerer. 40 mana is a little bit less than we're used to, but 5 attack. 10 defense is still lower than we're used to, I'll give you that, but we get 15 wisdom. I said that I was going to combine the Shendyt of Geb with Scepter of Devastation for a sorcerer. This would easily take its place if the opportunity presented itself. It has an eerie sprite design as well, dark gray, black, got a golden lace around it, kind of looks like a piece of cheese pizza. It's got it all for me. This is my favorite armor in the game. But that's just me after all. So I'm curious what your favorite armors are to wear. That's all I've got for you today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, don't forget to check out the next episode whenever I post it, which will probably be soon. Alright. See ya.